Good evening. I'd like to call the Monday, September the 27th, 2021 North Augusta City Council study session to order. And I'd like to turn it over to our City Administrator, Jim Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have three items in particular for tonight. So first will be the review of our agenda for the City Council meeting next Monday. The second item will be our department details, where the department heads will come up and give updates on upcoming events. And lastly, I'll turn it back over to the mayor for the mayor's matters. So I'll go ahead and jump right into item number one, which is our city agenda, our city council agenda. And so we'll go through, as of note for next week, we'll be recognizing our city attorney, Kelly Zier, for 50 years of service to the city. So that's an incredible milestone, and it's certainly one worth mentioning here in the study session. And under item number 6, we move into unfinished business. We'll have an item under Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, which is the authorizing the design of the Riverside Village Boat Dock. This was one we had previously queued up and asked to table based on some last-minute work we were doing with our engineering firm, Cranston Engineering. But now we're prepared to bring that back to the table for council consideration.
We vote to take that off the table then and then go into the resolution.
Yes, sir. We'll also be doing a number of second readings. These are 3 in a row here, are items that we've done first readings on last week. So the first one is an annexation request, ordinance number 2021-12, changing the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by accepting the petition requesting annexation by the landowners and annexing plus or minus 3.03 acres of property located at 1295 West Martintown Road, owned by MB Jones Oil Company. And so that's the gas station that's north of I-20 on Martintown Road. They are contiguous to the city and have asked to be annexed in. That's one that the staff recommended, and this is not a forced annexation. This is one that is voluntary annexation. So we would request that you also give this due for the second reading. And so I'll pause for any questions on that one. Next item I have is item number 8 on the agenda, which would be under zoning, ordinance number 2021-13, to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina, by rezoning plus or minus 7.25 acres of land owned by S&H Enterprises, Aiken County tax parcel numbers 013-20-03-004, from industrial to thoroughfare commercial. Again, that's a second reading. And so this was in support of a parcel of land that will be part of the new Kia dealership. They're near the entrance to the industrial park. So you can drive down Jefferson Davis Highway today and see that they have started to remove the old Toyota dealership. And this is part of that overall plan. So they had gone through a number of different wickets, both through Planning Commission and BZA. And this will allow us to move forward on the Kia dealership, which, again, is a staff recommendation for the council to consider. Any questions on that item? I'll move to the next one, ordinance number 2021-14, to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina, by rezoning plus or minus 4.45 acres of land owned by the city of North Augusta, Aiken County tax parcels, all starting with 007-07-06, and it's parcels numbers 003, 004, and 005, from general commercial and R14 large lot single family to P public use, and this will be a second reading of that zoning request. I understand that will probably gather the most interest from our citizens as it appeared from the last meeting that we had, and I'm suspecting we're going to have a number of folks come out as well to talk about the impacts of that zoning. I'll pause for any questions. Hearing none, we'll go over into new business. We're going to be adding under zoning ordinance number 2021-15 to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina, by rezoning plus or minus 3.67 acres of land owned by Felix Daniel Mackey. The parcel number there is 006-05-01-024, from R14 large lot single family to R5 mixed residential, and this would be ordinance for the first reading. And if I'm not mistaken, actually the next item, number 11, is a contiguous parcel with that within the Mackey property. And so this, to orient the council and our folks at home, is property that's located near the intersection of West Martintown Road and Knobcone Avenue. So if you're heading over to the high school coming down Martintown, the property there on the right-hand side. And so you've got one small parcel, which is covered under item number 10, which is the 3.67 acres, and then a larger parcel in item number 11, which is 48.42 acres. So both of these items are brought before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission recommendation was to allow for this zoning to R5 mixed residential. So I'll pause on the first one, which is number 10, which is for the 3.67 acres of land for the Mackey property for the first reading. Any questions from the council?
Do we know what they're wanting to go in there now at this time or not?
They did not announce, Councilwoman, what they were looking to put on at that time. They just wanted to have the flexibility to be able to put some sort of development on that site, and they also indicated they were maintaining their property, their house that sits kind of in a U, if you will, and so that part of their discussion with the Planning Commission was that they were still going to be local, and that whatever they put on that property would have impact on their homestead. So they did not specifically come out and say apartments or townhomes or homes, but they indicated more of a, as the zoning states, a mixed residential.
And just refresh my memory, in the R5, what can go there?
There's a number of different things that can go there. I'll defer to Tommy Paradise, but I believe you can put apartments, townhomes, and homes on that lot. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Tommy, they can put in there? Yeah, why don't you go on up?
It's all about the record so the people at home can hear us. You can put assisted living, a nursing home, apartments, townhomes, patio homes, those type things. It opens it up to some of those things rather than just single family detached.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
A few years ago, probably 15 years ago, there was a lawsuit against the city over the Mortontown Road property, which included the Mackey property. And does this meet the needs or the demands of that lawsuit?
I would have to defer to our 50-year employee, Kelly Zier, on that one.
Yeah, basically what happened at that time, there was some question about actually some property across the road, and the ultimate result in that litigation was that this property was not going to be zoned commercial unless, I think it was 1/3 of the property on the other side of the street became commercial. But the judge also provided if 1/3 of the property across there became commercial, then this Mackey property would become commercial. But they also, part of that, they reserved the right that they could petition to rezone at any time they wanted to rezone, and so that's what's taking place here.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, and again, or maybe Tommy, maybe you may know this, but you know, it's kind of hard not knowing what they're going to put there to say, yeah, rezone it to that. I mean, it could end up being a ton of apartments, and you know, I've read through some of the complaints, and you know, is it going to exit on Knobcone? Is the entrance going to come out on Martintown? Have we looked at it? Have they looked at any of that yet?
They had not, Councilman, at least not to my knowledge. So the discussions that at least that I heard in the Planning Commission did talk about that. They did address some of the concerns about whether this neighborhood would drop onto Martintown or onto Knobcone or both. I don't believe that was fully explored. Again, I would defer to Mr. Paradise on if he's got some different information. But I sat and was able to watch that Planning Commission in person because I was going through the zoning request for public use. So I didn't get the sense that they had come to a determination of how the roads were going to be. I know for the Martintown Road study that we've completed that there is a request to put a traffic light there at Knobcone and West Martintown, and I think that's going to certainly be key to any kind of future growth, whether that's on the Mackey property or further north into the commercial properties that are there behind the Waffle House.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We looked at, putting a four-way light there and bringing the road goes to Savannah Barony in around where it makes a full intersection. People should be able to do what they want to do with their land, but it's, we're just leaving it blanket. Once we pass it, I mean, you could have a bunch of apartments there, and without any plan or knowing anything, it's hard to, that's why I was hoping somebody had a little something.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, for the rezoning, you don't have to. That's the conversation we used to have in the planning commission.
Right.
We're rezoning, and you don't have to have that. I'm like Ms. Clifford. I happened to watch that planning commission meeting, and the only comment I would say on that was there was a explanation from the applicant that because they live in that area, that they very much wanted it to be a very nice village type feel. So from what they're saying is they don't, they're not going to, because they live there, like Ms. Clifford said, they're saying they aren't going to turn it into something that's not nice. Now, there's no,
now are they
way to
doing,
guarantee that, of course.
but are they doing the development themselves? Or do we not know?
I didn't hear that on there.
He didn't indicate one
I
way or
don't
the
think
other,
so, no.
Councilman. I think he left it open for interpretation, whether he was going to pursue that himself or whether he was going to have an outside group come in and do that development.
It might be good if you do want to hear just the planning commission themselves, their statements. I know.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously
I know
they
Commissioner Larry Watts talked a lot about, because Larry is very land focused and of course very concerned about development. And I know from his comment was he felt comfortable with it. So we thought as far as that use, but again, that's the planning commission. So you may want to go back and just watch that.
I mean, I'll go back and watch it. It's just very rare. I mean, most everything we've had come to us recently has had a purpose. Like the stuff we're voting for the second reading, we know part of it's going for a new car dealership. This piece wants to come in because they just want to be in the city. This is one we're just leaving it kind of blanketed.
Well, let me just mention this, and this is just generic to rezoning anything. Unless it's a PUD that has very specific requirements. When you rezone something, you rezone it to a certain zoning classification, and anything in that classification, the people who own the property are entitled to. You cannot legally require that they pick one of the something in there. And I mean, this is just, it's just something for council to be aware of. Anytime you rezone a piece of property, you rezone it, and it allows everything that zoning district would allow to be done. Now, for some years, we seemed to do PUDs for about everything that was done. That gave us a lot more control over what was put there, but PUD has changed substantially anymore with the size requirements and commercial along with residential and all, and surprisingly, but we might not have been doing it exactly right back when we were doing those, but that was a popular way at one time to try to pin a developer down to something specific.
And I guess my question goes along that same line, Kelly. So, and I watched the Planning Commission meeting, and I understand that there was some change in the laws with the PUDs, and I think they had to have some commercial portion, and some other things. But if we wanted to put some restraints on this, really the only way to do it would be whatever the PUD under the current law allows. Is that correct?
My understanding, that's basically correct. And the other thing is, I'll tell you, if you try to get a developer to come to you and say, well, we'll rezone it, whatever, R14, but only if you agree that you'll just build this on there, that's referred to as contract zoning. That is illegal, and you cannot do it.
So I guess I watched the Planning Commission meeting. fairly libertarian person who believes that someone should be able to do with their land, for the most part, what they want. But there's also a line at which what they're doing, how does it affect those around them and their rights? So I guess my biggest question, and it's something that I've looked at a little bit, but I'm not sure that I fully understand, is one, the market is going to continue to, I don't know if incentivize or demand this type of development going forward, higher density development. I mean, it's what, it's what the market's calling for. It's the product that's selling. It's what we're probably going to get a lot of requests for. I'm not personally opposed to higher density development for the most part. I think there are a lot of economic reasons to do it. But from a comprehensive plan standpoint, as a city, do we collectively have any sort of philosophy, any sort of strategy for, where and how we allow this? So, not to pick on Columbia County, it seems like we always want to talk about the growth, and we don't want to become like Columbia County, but for lack of a better comparison, just so that we do have a little more, when these things come and they're not a one-off thing where we're having to look at it in the scope of this single development, we are looking at it from a larger vision, and I think the comprehensive plan is supposed to provide that to us. So I guess my question is, from a comprehensive plan standpoint, how is this parcel identified, and what is our overall strategy as we continue to get these types of requests coming in over the next, probably for the foreseeable future?
So, Councilman, I'll take a stab at that broadly, but I don't have a great answer for you about that particular parcel of land, of where that fits in the comprehensive plan. I think what we're seeing here in the city right now is, from an inventory perspective, a lot of the projects that are ongoing that are north of I-20 are becoming more mature and are running out of land to operate on. So obviously you've got some new ones, there at Austin Graybill, stuff closer to Exit 5, and so those will continue for a period of time. But now we're starting to see is greater infill pressures. So areas that are not fully developed, and without going into kind of pre-decisional discussions we've had with a number of different developers, it's pretty safe to say that at this point in time, anything that's either green space that's privately owned or areas that have the ability to be developed or zoned are moving in that direction. And so, it's a fair question to ask, what's our long-term strategy on plan? I think when we look at Exit 1 in particular, that zone, the way that that's going to likely move forward is you're going to have a component of commercial there right behind the Waffle House, or supplanting the Waffle House at that location with the stuff that the current developer is looking at, and then a decent amount of single-family home and some townhome items that would be what they call the Hammock Farms area, which is east along there on Exit 1. Between there and the high school. So ultimately, I would expect that we're going to see a decent amount of growth if the Exit 1 development comes to the fore, that we will have some additional requirements there associated with Exit 1. And so I guess that's a question back to the council then is, what's your appetite for doing that?
Yeah, and I think that's my question overall in general, that I'm not sure, quite frankly, that I've answered fully myself, but I don't think we've answered as a body that well either, as to, how much are we going to control the type of growth that happens, rather than how much are we going to let that growth control us. And as I said, I point that finger back at myself as much as I pointed anywhere else to properly answer that.
I can answer the question. The staff report says that the comprehensive plan future land use map show this parcel to be used as low density residential.
My only question was, do we have a status update of what the light situation is on Knob Cone? I know that that was being worked, but do we have any updates on that?
I don't have a comprehensive update for you today, Councilman. I would tell you that we're still, for the amount of time that it's taken us to get the traffic light there at Bergen, at Martintown, we're still, a ways from seeing anything there at Knob Cone, like in the years kind of time frame.
Is there anything we can do to entice DOT to do a traffic study there, especially, if this is developed into a neighborhood and right across the street it is very similar? That's just going to take the traffic and make it that much more.
I don't think there's an argument that has to be made for the traffic light at Knobcone. I think the argument's already there, and I think it was validated with the Martintown Road study. It really just comes down to the funding mechanisms to be able to move that project, further along.
And that's probably more of a, we need to call Bill Hickson on something like that, I'm assuming. He probably has more over DOT than we do, I would think.
I would suspect he's got lots of good connections into the DOT, Councilman.
The only thing I'll say, Kevin, is I think I think you bring up a good point, and one of the things that we are looking at doing in the first of the year is, I think one thing we all talked about was we need to get back to long-term planning. So one of the things, because we had a 9-day plan, we were kind of all on board here, and what we're dealing with now moving forward with the public headquarters, that whole process. So just what, in my mind, I would say I'd be looking at would be in the January, February timeframe, because I think there's a lot of issues that we need to discuss long-term. Not just that, I think we need to address, we have vacant buildings that we need to figure out what that looks like. We need to have a conversation about North Augusta Country Club. So to answer your question, I don't see us with everything doing this the last few months of this year, but I've already mentioned that to Ms. Clifford and Ms. Moody. So we are going to put something together to begin that thought process in the first of the year. And because I think you bring up a good point. There's a number of things that we've gotten away. When we just focus year to year on what we're doing year to year, we don't have any opportunity to decide where do we want to be in 10 years. I think we're at a point now where we need to do that. So that's kind of where we are. To answer your question about planning.
Yeah, you did.
Doesn't
Thanks.
help you with this, but I'm just saying.
No, but I agree. I think that's I'm glad to hear you say that, and I obviously agree that it's something we need to do.
Yeah, the other thing we think about too, I mean, the high density stuff is becoming more popular with the cost of land going through the roof, building going through the roof. At what point are we letting the developers tell us this is what we need? And I guess that's along the lines of what Kevin's asking kind of too. This one's a tough one for me. I mean, it's somebody's land. They should be able to do what they want to do with it. But, generally, like I say, we have an idea of what's going in there. And right now it's just a blanket whatever. I mean, it could be sold to the highest bidder for something that we weren't envisioning. And that's the only hang up I have.
One of the things that would be helpful is, I know when we as on planning commission, I always wondered what council, what y'all were looking at as far as information we had given you. So what I would tell everybody is, in our packet, before the applicant came in front of the planning commission, staff did an analysis, and it's numbered from 1 to 10. And it takes items, how does it impact from code, comprehensive plan? And I would just tell everybody, do your homework, look at what the staff and the planning commission have done so you can understand that, because there's really good data in there. And I think that may help alleviate, maybe not your concern, but will give you some information that will help you when we meet next Monday to talk that. So I would tell you on these, with the planning commission and what Tommy and his group is doing, there's really good information. When I was on planning commission, we used that information. It was vitally important to understand that information, because a lot of the concerns that people have, if they look at this, I think some of those, are not as big a deal as you look into it. So that's the thing I would tell everybody. Please do your homework before Monday, because I think some of your information that you're asking about is listed here. Would you agree with that, Mr. Paradise? Okay.
I would say, since we just had a discussion about it, I would say that, to me, it kind of leans towards being acceptable to have this medium density there on the 4-lane thoroughfare, whereas, when you think of a neighborhood, when you move off the 4-lane road, that's when you start getting into, much larger lots. So to me, it kind of fits it because of that, it being on that main thoroughfare. And just a little bit further, it's R10. So and it's, across the street is R7, so I just think it kind of fits it because of that reason. You're on that main thoroughfare, you pull off that road and boom, you're into a little smaller neighborhood, and a little bit further down the road you get into a neighborhood that's, what you might call medium estate lots or whatever, small estate lots, but anyway.
That's a good point.
Well, I'll combine, if I could, items number 10 and 11, because again, these are related topics. So ordinance number 2021-16 is related to number 15, which again is a Mackey property discussion about the 48.42 acres going from R14 large single family lots to R5 mixed residential. So again, those are two items that'll be next to each other there on the agenda. They are related. They are owned by the same family, and they are adjoining properties there at the corner there of Knobcone and West Martintown. So again, same discussion for item number 10. But those two items are linked. Are there any other questions on items 10 and 11? If not, what I'll do is I'd like to add, or at least for discussion, two items for consideration to add as resolutions, which are not in the packet, but are late breaking based on discussions we've had with both vendors and also with city attorney. So the first one is a resolution that I would like to propose wherein the city council directs the city administrator to proceed on the construction of the public safety headquarters on Georgia Avenue. So if you vote in the affirmative next week for the public zoning requirement or request for Georgia Avenue, all that does is takes that property from GC and R14 and makes it P for public use. It does not dictate what that public use is, and the last standing guidance from the council to the previous administrator, Todd Glover, was to put the public safety headquarters at East Buena Vista. So I'd like to have a formal document that is the request of the council to the city administrator and staff to move forward in that way. So I'd like to be able to add that to the agenda. I've sent Kelly a copy of some verbiage that I would like to see included, and I think some of those caveats would include discussions that I've had here with council to include such items as bringing back the final design for council prior to moving forward to the bid, and then also the preservation of the two legacy homes there on Observatory Avenue, and doing what we can with nonprofits to preserve those buildings without the use of CPST4 funds, because that would be illegal, and then also to have at least one citizen engagement discussion about the design of the building and the site plans as we can move forward on that. So those are some of the controls that I would ask to put in that resolution for the council to direct the administrator and staff to move forward with that project. You have an off-ramp there where next council meeting, if the council does not vote to move forward on a public zoning, then that resolution is moot and it can be tabled. If it is not moot, then I'd like to be able to move forward on that with a clear set of directions. So I'll pause for any questions from the council.
I think it makes sense. No reason not to do it.
And the last item I'd like to add is a little more routine but important for us, and that is a resolution that Ricky and Cammie are working on together right now, which is for the ability for us to enter into a contract with a vendor to move forward on our Office 365 program. That was a budgeted item from 2021, and Ricky has been working pretty hard to get us starting to move in that direction. And I look at that really as kind of a two-phased approach. One is to start moving us into a .gov domain, and then the second part of that is to move us forward with Office 365, which is a cloud-based service for Microsoft products. So at the very basic level. So I think it's the minimum product we can basically purchase, which really just gives us the productivity suites and Outlook without doing all the extra items, which we could choose to add at a later date. But anyway, this allows us to pick one of the vendors that we have been looking at and would allow us to move forward on Office 365.
100% support. move forward.
Will that help me access my email better?
No promises, Councilman, but yeah, sure.
Will it stop with the hacking so I don't get a, do you have a minute to help me with something?
You know,
It'll certainly slow down some of the hacking. It will not prevent the calls about your car's insurance extended warranty program, though.
All right, Ricky, get on that. I get tired of those calls.
you know, at the Public Power Hour, one of our citizens talked about the .gov. So, see, we're listening. Mr. Donahue.
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, that concludes the items for the City Council agenda for next Monday. Subject to any questions, we'll move into department details, and we'll be led off with Ms. Cammie Hayes.
As far as the budget goes, our public hearing notice will be published in the paper this Friday, October 1st. And what that public hearing notice does is it provides all the details as far as when the public hearing will be held, the time, the location. It also provides a consolidated look at our budget. And along with that, we will post the finalized proposed budget on the city's website for the public to view, and there will be copies in the city's clerk's office should someone not have access to the internet. Related to property taxes, any properties that currently have a delinquent tax bill, if it remains unpaid, as of Monday morning, those properties will be posted, and that is a stake in their yard with a sign notifying that it is delinquent and has been seized by the tax collector, and there is still time for those individuals to remit payment. The tax sale is scheduled November 8th and 9th this year. Related to utilities, we have a Cycle 1 due date on Monday, October 4th, and a Cycle 2 disconnect will be that Wednesday and Thursday, October 6th and 7th. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Thanks, Cammie. We'll be followed by Public Services with James Hutton.
We hadn't got any big projects going right now, mainly routine stuff. Property maintenance staff is currently in the process of conducting litter control throughout various areas of the city, specifically along the main thoroughfares, Martintown Road, Knobcombe, Bergen, and those areas there. Anybody watching, any customers, residents of North Augusta who would like to report some of the roadways that are littered, you can do so by calling Public Services. Numbers on the website. Also, over the next 2 weeks, property maintenance will be working at various areas along the main thoroughfares, clearing out some of the planting beds, preparing those for mid-October planting of fall flowers. Yes, sir.
I have a question for you regarding beautification
Yes, sir.
along Highway 25, where Scoggin Lake comes in, that Long Island going toward, excuse me, I'm too close, I guess, going toward exit 1. Were there any plans to develop that island with shrubbery and plant material, since we've got some major development on the corner there of Scoggin Lake and Highway 25? That is the new gas station that's coming into town. Are there any plans to do anything with that section of Highway 25?
Yes, sir, there is in the future. I reckon right now we have done a design. Roy Kibler's done a design of that area on the beautification.
Okay.
I think the funding sources right now is what we need to focus on, and also staffing to upkeep the island itself, added to our other
Okay, thank you.
projects and programs.
What happened to your thing here?
Thank you, James. We followed with Chief Thomas from Public Safety.
Just a couple things to go over with you. You've seen your packet that some of our representatives from public safety met with the state officials on Friday, trying to acquire the software system that a lot of municipalities and a lot of courtrooms in the counties are using around the state. And we were successful to acquire that CMS system, which is a court management system, which will help and aid us in faster service. It will also give us the opportunity for our citizens to pay online, so that's a great benefit for us, and so that system will work well for us in the courts. 2 new public safety officers are starting this month, Caitlin Dorsey and Terrence Hood, very promising young people who are completely green, but they'll be trained. So we're looking forward to having those 2 on board. I don't know if you noticed, Fire Station 1, it's coming splendid. It's coming out of the ground, and you can see it leaps and bounds. So that's a great thing for us to see that, and it's going on schedule. So that's great. Last thing, we learned late this afternoon that we received one of the DUI grants that I told you about. I've mentioned it a couple times, which will mean we'll sign all the paperwork. Mr. Clifford sent it to me today, and so we're just thrilled about getting that DUI grant for another public safety officer that will be on that grant from the state. Okay, any questions?
These 2 officers, have they already gone through the first step of training, or they're completely starting fresh?
They don't have anything, Mr. McGee, so we will be getting them certified in law enforcement and firefighting. Have some great resumes and law enforcement certificates, degrees, but don't have the training they need in the state. Okay?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. We'll go over to Rick Meyer from Parks, Recreation, and Tourism.
We go up and down. Okay, so our 2021 youth football program kicks off tonight at Lions Field. So if you, when you leave here, if you need something to do, ride through the park. There's plenty of traffic there. Pat will be there. That's right. And you can see in that statement there's 304 youth football players, 204 cheerleaders, which is an uptick again. And the soccer program gets away in earnest tomorrow evening with 567 participants, and girls volleyball program next week with 130. So we've got good numbers. The Wrecking Crew Committee has selected JLA as their design firm for the North Augusta Miracle League field, and work is in progress. And lastly, and I didn't put this on there in case you're interested, next weekend the dog show is back in town, and that's turned into a pretty big event. It's a regional dog show, so check it out. Any questions?
What about the cat show? When's it
The
coming
cat
back?
show's already been. You missed the cat show. It was in August, yes.
Well, why don't we combine them? Can I bring a cat and just throw it in front of all the dogs and let's see what happens?
Yeah, probably not a good idea. Yeah. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Rick. We'll have Tom Zeser next from Public Works.
So Streets and Drains is finally getting around to complete the Bollard Repair replacement at the corner of Buena Vista and Georgia Avenue. That's on the University Hospital corner. They're doing that this week, and we're still waiting for the pole base for the signal pole that's across the street. It should arrive the week of 10/10, so we will install it as soon as that arrives. Streets and Drains is also be performing a replacement of utility cuts throughout the city this week, and I'm told there's a severe one on Torrey Avenue that will be repaired as well as part of that list. They are also repairing a lot of sidewalk in Hammond's Ferry, most notably on Arrington Avenue and Madison Street, to remove some tripping hazards due to tree roots. And then the Stormwater Department is hosting a contractor workshop on Friday, October 1st, down at the SRP Park at the WOW Club. And they will be doing some field demonstrations out in the area adjacent to the amphitheater and the greenway. So if you're having to be down there and see that activity going on or get questions about it, that's all that is. And if you do happen to ride down to Lions Field this evening and notice the new pavement that was recently completed in that area, that's DOT work. Sorry I have not been able to provide advance notice of that work, but they show up on their schedule with little to no notification to us. So we're glad for that work to be done. And anyway,
Do you know, were they out there today? Because they had some
No.
loose ends to fix
Yeah, well, I went down there this afternoon and they were doing the striping, temporary striping in front of the Lions Field. So they got that parking lane paved, that's all, so. it
Do they
should-
give you a list of when they're coming, or they just kind of show up? Because I know Martintown Road, you show up one Sunday evening, next thing you know, by Wednesday, it's done.
Yeah, unfortunately, they, we were aware that those were projects that had been awarded, but no timeline for construction, so we're at their mercy.
Tom, I have a question for you. On 5 Notch Road, where all the resurfacing has taken place, the striping is atrocious.
That's all temporary striping. They have to allow a certain amount of time before they can apply the permanent striping on that new pavement.
Same thing with the stop bars.
Right, yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Everything I've seen down there is all temporary striping. So
Okay.
there'll be, someone will come in at some point and put down the permanent markings.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
I think that concludes our department updates, so I'll turn it back to the mayor for the first part of the mayor's matters.
Really only have one thing, just want to remind, no one's here, I'm talking to the camera, out there in TV land. Live stream, our next Meet the Mayor meeting will be this Thursday at the Living History Park. And there's plenty of parking outside of Living History Park. We'll have a golf cart to take folks who do not want to walk down to the barn, which is a lower level part of Living History Park. That'll be at 6 o'clock. So I would just, and again, that's for anybody in the community. So far, I think our Meet the Mayors have been very, very positive. We've had good feedback, a lot of good discussion. I would expect this to be the same. So Living History Park this Thursday, 6 o'clock. We'll have a golf cart to ride you back to the barn if you don't feel like walking. You can't drive into the property. So, and last thing I'll say again is you can always go to www.northaugusta.net/mayor, and that has all the information about Meet the Mayor. It has everything about the Public Power Hour and the vlog that I put out the end of last week. So just another way to communicate. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The final item we have under focus items is the finalizing the review and discussion of the proposed 2020 consolidated budget. So we were able to present the budget overview last week. I know I've had the opportunity with Rachel to sit down with the majority of you on a one-on-one basis. And so we're prepared to move forward on publishing the draft budget, and that will again go through public comment. And it's not a final budget until you all vote on it in 2 separate readings. But we'd like to have your permission to move forward at this point in time on publishing the budget, unless you have any other ads or updates that you wanted to inform us at this time.
No, I don't.
No, so go forward.
All good? We're good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all the items we have from the city staff today.
All right. We stand adjourned. Thank you.